If you just finished Dune and you loved it and want more of the Dune universe, but you're on the fence about reading the books, I'm here to tell you that you absolutely should, especially because, in my opinion, this is one of the few books where watching the movie first actually offers you a better reading experience. To start, there are 6 books in the main series, all written by Frank Herbert, and in my opinion, you shouldn't even bother checking out the other books, but if you really want to, there are like 16 others that aren't really canon. The 2 new movies directed by Denis Villeneuve only cover the first book, splitting into 2 parts, and it's a fairly good adaptation. However, there are some things left out of the book, which is reasonable because it is about a 600-page book depending on your edition, and in my opinion, this actually is a benefit to watching the movies first. Now, I say that's a benefit because a lot of people regard Dune as a fairly difficult book to get into, and that's really reasonable because it does kind of launch you into this mysterious world with all just weird types of jargon, and you don't get a lot of the history that precedes the current events in Dune. And I think that for your average non-sci-fi reader, this is kind of more complex than the books you'll be reading if you just read normal fiction or just don't read books at all. As a result, the movies are both a great source of visualization and context while also not covering every single part of the book. So when you go to read the book after the movie, you'll have a better understanding and idea of what's going on while seeing a bunch of things that didn't occur in the movie, and you'll have a better appreciation for the actual source material. However, it's still totally normal to find the book difficult, even having seen both movies. That's because, like I said, Herbert launches you thousands of years into the future without giving you any historical context of the events that have led to the point in time in the book, and also he just uses a bunch of jargon that he's made up. But the book includes sources within it that help you better understand things. So one is the vocab list, all the jargon and words he's created. There's definitions for them at the very end. There's also 4 different appendices at the very end. One's about the ecology of Dune, one's about the religion of Dune, one's about the Bene Gesserit, and one's about the key players in the Great Houses. These, generally speaking, are minor in spoilers. If you've seen both movies, they're more or less no spoilers, but tread lightly if you just want to read the books. Another thing to note about the series is as you progress through it, the scope becomes much larger than just Paul and Arrakis, and it gets much weirder. These are sci-fi books that focus on the limits of human evolution and what happens as humans diverge to different planets and are left alone to evolve on those planets. And it gets really weird and interesting, but in my opinion, that was one of the most appealing parts about the new stuff we learned in movie 2, and if you like that, you're really going to enjoy the later books. Finally, I want to talk about, with as little spoilers as possible, what goes on in each book, because like I said, it's more than just Paul, but the first 3 books do focus on Paul. Book 1 tells the story of Paul Atreides' rise to power. It's covered in Dune Part 1 and 2. Dune Messiah, Book 2, is the book that deconstructs Paul's character, and is generally speaking people's least favorite book because of this. Denis Villeneuve plans to direct this movie, and this will likely be his last adaptation in the series. Book 3 tells the story of Paul's 2 children and also, generally speaking, wraps up his story, so these first 3 books are often regarded as a trilogy. The last 3 books take place 3,500 years after Children of Dune, and they focus on the ramifications of Paul's lineage, specifically his son Leto II.